Welcome to Higher Caliber, where each week we dive into the backstory and history of the people and companies that keep America running.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Higher Caliber. Today I'm here with my buddy Marc Santos. Thanks for coming, buddy. How you doing?
So great. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. So for people who don't know you, want to go ahead and introduce yourself, let them know what you do professionally and your other hobbies as well, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Marc Santos, currently active duty Navy supply officer, and I'm also a member of the Navy's Marksmanship Team as an action shooter. My primary disciplines are Steel Challenge, USPSA, and, anything I could shoot with a handgun that's safe and fun.
Yeah.
I'm also an NRA certified instructor, but I don't really teach that much. But I'm more than happy to help out. I can give you the recipe, but you got to cook.
Right on. So a lot of the questions I'm going to ask are for me selfishly because, there's some stuff I don't know. So where are you from originally?
So I was born and raised in Tamuning, Guam.
Okay.
It's U.S. territory, small island out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Look for the dark blue on the map or below. There's a little speck with USA parenthesized under it.
Right.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah. So why the Navy?
So I always wanted to join the military and just be a officer as well. And the Navy really attracted me because of all the different things you can do. It's not just ships. There's, submarines, aircraft, special warfare, of course. And right now I'm on assignment with EOD, and it's a good time.
Yeah.
And also the places you get stationed in the Navy are pretty nice. I was comparing Army, Navy. I looked where you got stationed in the Army. I looked where you got stationed in the Navy. And I'll pour one out for the soldiers. Some of those places.
Was the Air Force a close second?
There wasn't really any jobs that interested me in the Air Force, and I thought about the Marine Corps until one of my buddies brought me. He was a prior enlisted infantryman, and now he's a comms officer in the Marine Corps. And he said, "Oh yeah, my officer recruiter is doing a hike and a lunch. Would you like to go?" As soon as I signed that waiver, I'm wearing a freaking helmet, plate carrier, rucksack, and here's our water. It's one of those jerry rigs.
Yeah.
And the captain that was leading us in that. So you remember how he said it was 2 miles one way, let's go. and food's a motivator. I was like, you know what, I'll push out, I'll keep up, I'll do it because I'm going to get some good chow. And then they threw me an MRE. It was a beefaroni one, so it was all right.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah. And then I remember the Navy, you can kind of get hot meals. They're easily accessible. So, yeah.
I guess that's a pretty easy choice.
Exactly.
What did
I don't
you
really like camping too much too, so.
So what was, I'm always kind of interested what people were like before they went in. So were you like, what kind of gravitated you towards the military, I guess? Like when you were in high school, were you, I don't know, was that kind of like something you wanted to do? Or was it like me where it's like, well, I'm kind of, obviously you're on the officer side. I was like, well, I don't know. My test scores aren't looking good. I better go ahead to the recruiting office.
Yeah, I was looking back how I was as a kid, teenager in high school. It's pretty cringe.
Yeah.
And
I think everybody probably feels that way, but
yeah, mine was pretty bad. Like I don't think I'd recognize myself if I had to time travel, I'd go back and encourage. That's a nice way of slapping around how I was back then. Just kind of toxic family upbringing, small island, nothing really much going on. And then I had one incident where I almost lost my eye and got stitches in the back of my head. I got attacked by somebody with brass knuckles.
Oh wow!
And that was a come to Jesus moment for me.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? It's and I was like, okay, let's get this sorted out. And the military attracted me because everything you have to do, you pretty much have to work for. You're basically self-made. Nothing's handed to you. There's, not as much hookups or nepotism compared to other trades. So that's what gravitated me towards that.
Yeah. So you were in Guam the whole time before you went in?
Yeah, my grandparents are from the Philippines. They immigrated to Guam. I was born and raised there. It's kind of weird now because a third of the island's owned by the military, and now I can go there. I don't come from a military family. I lived and I commissioned as a naval officer without telling much people because I just wanted to break out on my own.
Right.
So that's always fun. And they keep on trying to send me back because I understand the culture, but it's like I'm good. I'm good. I didn't join to go back. Some people do that, which is great. I know some Coast Guard buddies that I went to high school with, joined the Coast Guard just to get stationed back home in Guam, and they're living their best life. So good on them, but it wasn't for me.
Yeah. And you can tell me if you've ever been asked to be enlisted in the CIA. You can tell me.
It's classified. No, I'm not a spook.
Right.
Not a cop. Not DEA.
So how did you find yourself in the Navy on the Navy shooting team? How did that go about?
So on Guam, after my little brass knuckle incident, I would watch History Channel, and Caleb Giddings hates this a lot. And I even told JJ Rakaza this, but remember that show Top Shot?
Oh yeah, he was on there, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, both of them.
Oh yeah, they both.
And I was watching it, and I was like, man, this looks like really, really cool. But the gun laws in Guam are very strict. Organized shooting sports, not it there. It's pretty petty. It's not where it needs to be compared to stateside. And I said, this is something I want to pursue.
Mm-hmm.
And senior in college, I bought my first handgun. It was a HK USP 9.
Nice.
I remember I was about to buy an XDM 5.25 match because Springfield has nice marketing stuff. But the guy behind the gun counter said that this is cool, but I have this gun that's very reliable, and if you can shoot it, you can shoot anything. What he didn't tell me that it was a double single action HK, and those are very humbling guns to learn to shoot with.
Right.
So now when I pick up my 2011s or the race version guns, it's like eating fast food. It's awesome. But shooting something I've always liked to do in the Navy. I always hopped on range days, made sure I got classified, taught sailors if they needed help with that, and then I found out they were standing up an action shooting team in 2018 called their OIC, and they said, and Lieutenant Commander Leitner now, and he was like, okay, you want to join the team, but it's one of those things where it's a collateral duty, but there are wickets you got to meet. So it was A class or better in USPSA and one national level match. So after I got the classifications, I shot Steel Challenge World Shoot in 2020. I got on the team like that, and I've been shooting for them ever since. I've shot at USPSA Nationals in 2021 and also Steel Challenge World Shoot in 21 and 22. And I'm on my second off tour, and it's a good time.
Yeah. I was just curious. That makes more sense. I was wondering if there was some sort of like if they just recruit you. So you said they stood it up, but they at least made sure you weren't a scrub before you got to put the jersey on.
Exactly. So unlike the Army Marksmanship Unit where you screen, and that team, they got some great shooters, but it was made by President Eisenhower to take medals from the commies and Soviets.
Yeah.
The Navy team, it's a collateral duty, and it's traditionally been bullseye. But, bullseye isn't too attractive to some of the younger shooters, and it's hard to find matches compared to USPSA, Steel Challenge, and 3-gun. So they started standing up a action shooting team, and Lieutenant Commander Leitner he's a national champion for 3-gun, USPSA Grandmaster. He's not a scrub, like you said.
Yeah.
And since it's a collateral duty, we don't want people just collecting the T-shirts or being collateral queens, as we call them in the Navy.
Collateral queens.
Collateral queens, where you're on every training team and got all the side hustles, but you don't know your job.
Yeah.
And we wanted people to represent well. So our wickets are pretty tough to meet. Right now we have about 18 members in the entire world. And, we're balancing this on top of our regular jobs in the Navy. We do get some support. It's not as crazy as the Army Marksmanship Unit because we're not a proper command, but,
right.
Still a good group of people. I love the other services shooting teams, and we all help each other out, build each other up. I'm jealous of our kids in the Marine Corps. It's their birthday soon. And they're making some great things. They originally had shooters that were in the Marine Corps, then they went to the Army Marksmanship Unit, then they brought that back to the Marine Corps. So
How does that work?
basically, some Marines, they did well, then they applied, they transferred to the Army.
Yeah.
Um, Probably because they run a lot less than Marines, which is pretty nice. But they brought that culture back to the United States Marine Corps, and the Marine Corps commandant and all of them, they're very supportive of it. So now their weapon training battalion in Quantico, they have Marines going out competing. It's a set of orders. It's their primary job. So they're really, really good. And their main thing, which I appreciate, is that they go out there and they train Marines how to shoot. And they actually have what they call MIC matches, Marine Corps marksmanship competition matches,
Yeah.
where they will shoot USPSA 3-gun style action stages, but they're using their rigs for work. So they're using issued 416s, issued M9s, M18s,
That's cool.
Wagner plates, and duty rigs. And I thought that was I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And they have their own distinguished program that we're working with, trying to get for the Navy for the action shooters, because we have one for Bullseye. But, it's come a long way, and I hope it comes to fruition because it's kind of nice.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. That's nice to hear. So for other people, I'm sure there's a lot of people that, don't follow that kind of stuff, but so how does it work with I'm curious myself. So you've had certain like sponsors in the past, right? So
Correct.
how do they feel about, I mean, is there any limitation?
So that's a big thing, unlike the Army Marksmanship Unit, where it's more stringent. Since the Navy, like the Air Force's shooting team, it's collateral. We can have sponsors outside, but we have to set the tone that, hey, don't be running around saying that, oh, this is the official, handgun or holster of the U.S. Navy. You
Right.
basically can't use the uniform for advertising purposes.
That makes sense.
But, I have a lot of sponsors. Black Dot Ammunition, make some great ammunition.
Mm-hmm.
You guys at Fire Reach, you let me teach a class out there.
Yeah.
Got some people's feet wet. That was a lot of fun.
That was fun.
Yeah. And Foresight Solutions, Plastic Jesus down in Florida. Big Tex Ordnance has been a big help as well, too. And the shooting community, a lot of my sponsors, they're basically second family. They're basically my family, and they help out.
Yeah.
So that's what's nice about it. And what's cool is that since it's a collateral duty and it's not too crazy, I'm not under a lot of pressure. I mainly go out to be a good representative, maybe have fun, and get people out there shooting. Because for a lot of sailors, a handgun is just checking the handgun or rifle is just checking the box you gotta get qualified for.
Right.
But if you can train with it, it's good, and it doesn't matter what your job is. There's a Asian proverb out there: it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in war. Plus, if you need to throw down, you're able to keep up and keep yourself safe and your shipmates and Marines safe.
Right.
So.
Well, that's a lot of stuff I didn't know, so that's interesting. Does the Coast Guard have one?
No. They got a Coast Guard jersey running around, but I hope they have an action team. The only team I'm tracking that they have is at the Academy, but it's mainly for Bullseye, which is fine. But I know a couple of good Coast Guard shooters out there that if they had that team for collateral duty that they could put in their fit rep evals for advancement, what they do for the Coast Guard outside of work, that'd be a great thing for them. Unfortunately, some of us ask like, hey, can you just adopt us? And I'm like, I'm sorry. It's not like that. But I hope they have one. Homeland Defense, Homeland Security has a team. They got some really good shooters. And they even got like Gucci practice ammo. One of their team members showed me like, oh, this is what we're issued. They have their own box, like 147 grain match. But they do well. They shoot Bianchi Cup, they shoot USPSA, they shoot IDPA, IP6, Steel Challenge, whatever they can get their hands on. And it's good because if a firearm is part of your toolkit, you should know how to use it.
Right.
And if you're proficient with it, it's even better.
Can you give some Santos advice on people that want to get into competition shooting but don't want to be super cringy and weird and don't want to look foolish?
So honestly, the shooting community, it's very, very nice. And just be honest, leave your ego at the door. And for me personally, shooting is I'm shooting and competing against myself.
Yeah.
Don't, if you're worrying about what other people are doing or how they're doing, you're taking away that energy on what you're doing, and be process oriented. Luckily, shooting, especially action shooting, is not one of those sports where you got to start out as a 3-year-old in an Olympic camp and get good
Right.
at. You can pick it up. I started shooting when I was, you know, 23, 24, and you can make some good gains if you put on the work. As for the cringy part, like I said, just leave your ego at the door. Don't get annoyed, and be realistic with your expectations. I love it when somebody who's been around guns all their life, that's all fine and dandy, but it's like
Those are
saying,
my
hey,
favorite people.
yeah, I know. And it's like saying, yeah, I go swimming for 30 minutes a day, and there's some people that go swimming, they're actually doing laps, they're taking their times down, and there's people that are swimming, just like floating around,
Right.
chilling out, there's no process, and they get upset. But the big ego thing too is, your profession, your title doesn't automatically bestow efficiency, and everybody's out there to have a safe time, and they're more than happy to help out
Yeah.
if you ask for it. Just don't be quiet. Always be willing to learn, and help paste and reset, please. If you don't, I'm gonna be sad.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
found it to be very like a very open community. When I first went, I thought it was going to be extremely gatekeeping. Um, everybody there seems. I haven't been to a lot of places, but anybody you talk to will say it's always a good group of people. So
Exactly.
and I
And
always try to encourage people, and they're like, "Oh, I don't really want to look stupid," and unless I know that they're extremely, because some people just shouldn't go. I hate to say that as like a firearms instructor, but some people you're like, okay, you should stay home because I actually care about the people that you're gonna go interact with. So maybe just stay home. But for the most
it,
part, get out there.
yeah, exactly. And practice scores out there. You can sign up for any matches. And it's funny you brought up gatekeeping, because in the United States, practical shooting, it's a working man sport, and the working man and women are the backbone of the community. It's
Yeah,
not the super grandmasters or champions that are raking it in. It's the participants that do it. Other countries, it gets pretty bad. There is gatekeeping, like you said. For example, I'll pick on my island of Guam, where we brought Steel Challenge there, but it's kind of weird because it's a U.S. territory, but it still falls under IPSC, so you need to get IPSC regional approval. And
can you explain IPSC a little bit for people that don't understand all the
yeah, so
craziness?
IPSC stands for International Practical Shooting Confederation. It was started here in America, and it goes out worldwide. It's the worldwide, directorate for competitive shooting, for action shooting, where you have the shot timer, the targets, and all of that.
Yeah,
USPSA, United States Practical Shooting Association, is the U.S. region for IPSC.
yeah,
So that puts territories, like American Samoa, Guam, Puerto Rico, in weird places. And circling back to what I said about USPSA, and also the United States, where this is a working man sport, you also have to understand that in other countries, you're either very, very, very wealthy, or really, really up there in the food chain politically, to have firearms ownership.
yeah.
So, of course, it's not a working man sport. It's almost like a country club. And I feel bad for the shooters on Guam, because it's about 2 to 3 grand just to come out here stateside to shoot. And right now, there's no active, IPSC clubs. There's a club, but they don't hold any matches. There's an application process, but hopefully, there's going to be some talk with. I already talked with the president of USPSA. He's willing to help out, so we can support
That's very
American
cool.
shooters out there
Yeah,
on Guam, and kind of break the mentality that's, for lack of a better term, stunted the growth there. Because the gun laws in Guam are pretty tough. You need a firearms ID card to buy ammunition. You
yeah. I
have
wanted to.
to,
Yeah, um,
yeah.
that's a good segue because I wanted to come back to that. So when's the first time you actually shot a gun? Because
First time
yeah.
first time I shot a gun, I was visiting some relatives in the Philippines,
Okay.
and that's when I realized that, hey, shooting in the Philippines, it's for people that have the money that can afford to do it.
Right.
And then there's a lot of gun clubs. I call them gun clubs, but they're really, ranges on Guam that are.
But is that how it works though? Unless you get this card, you have to actually go to a club and you shoot the guns there and leave them there and then go home, like in other countries.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, it's like that in Hong Kong, Japan, Korea.
Yeah.
I think is like, I want to say Korea is like that. I'm not too sure, but it's very very controlled. You can't. You have to leave your firearm there at the club. On Guam, you can bring it home, but it's just very very difficult to get the carry permit. The gun control laws are very not as permissive to the working class as they are here in the mainland U.S.
So it's not like growing up you had all your friends and their parents. You could just go shoot in the backyard like most of America.
No, it is not like that there. And the gun clubs they have in Guam are mainly for tourists.
Yeah.
Because tourism's our main industry.
Yeah.
Japan has complete gun control, and we have a lot of Japanese tourists. So the chance for them to spend a couple $100, go to Guam instead of the mainland, and get their dirty, hairy fantasy on and blast that 44 Magnum at a range, it can be pretty lucrative. There's some clubs that have been there in Guam forever, but the tourist ranges, it's static, and also for safety too, they have to make sure that people, because unfortunately, since there's not a big gun culture in a lot of countries, most people's first interactions or seeing guns is through media, movies, television shows, video games.
Yeah.
And those things are entertainment. They don't exactly show the realistics of how to safely handle a firearm. So it goes back to monkey see or monkey do. My favorite are when tourists, they hand them a revolver for the first time. They get the basic safety rules down. The 4 firearm safety rules and the 5th unsaid one. But the first thing they do when they open the cylinder is they spin it and they slap it in, not knowing that you could break the gun like that.
Yeah.
All that other stuff, and people underestimate the recoil. A lot of the shooting galleries on Guam, I'm going to call them galleries, not really clubs, they're galleries. They actually have a ring on the trigger guard of some guns, and they run a cable through it. That way,
so you can't manipulate.
Yeah, because sometimes I'll see little band-aids on tourists' heads. Like, went to the,
I've seen those on videos and ranges where it's chained to the booth. So I guess that's not the craziest thing I've ever heard of.
Yeah, and the sad thing about that is when you restrict gun ownership, you also restrict the opportunity to learn properly. And you also limit the caliber of instructors that you can get, because you're not making a lot of money doing that on Guam.
Right.
Because it's going to be very hard for your customers here in the U.S. If you're teaching a concealed carry class, they all have their own guns, they have their ammunition. It's pretty straightforward. And then on top of that, you have to navigate the cultural differences. There's the gatekeeping.
Did you get your NRA
stuff? It's wild.
Did you get your NRA certs when you were in the Navy, or were you still in Guam?
I was in college when I got my NRA cert. I drove down to Quad Cities in Iowa, and I took a class there. It was really good. I was shooting IDP and USPSA for a little bit, and I had a really, really good training counselor. Army, then he went Navy, retired as an MAC, living the best retired life with disability. And I think at the time, he was running a private investigation thing. And what I liked about him is that he would actually hunt other NRA instructors that weren't giving quality training, because for the longest time.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I want to talk about that.
You could sign off on the certificate for your NRA number, and most states take that.
Right.
It got to the point where people were just doing online classes, or what I call the Pizza Ranch specials, where they do a PowerPoint, a Pizza Ranch, no oversight, no practical.
And that's what drives me crazy, because if you want to be, you can get your credentials through the NRA, and you have a choice whether you want to be NRA approved or not. And when you state that you're non-NRA approved, you can do whatever you want, basically. You can do online classes, you could do a Zoom class. So I think we talked earlier in the year, or whenever we talked, it's their certificate mills. Like that's what I like to call them, because that's what they are. They're shoot at this white paper plate, and here's your certificate, and it says non-NRA approved, and it's bonkers.
Yeah, it's wild. I was fortunate because when I got into practical shooting in Iowa, I had some really, really good mentors. Gary Sint was the match director. They run Sint Motorsports down there, but he's also a distinguished rifleman in Bullseye. And then when I got to traveling around more, it was actually better for me and my health, because it's either go party, have a rager, and black out, or hey, I gotta save my money and to make match fees and pay for ammunition because it's expensive. But one of the ranges I made friends with Melody Lauer's husband, John.
Oh, yeah.
She's part of Citizens Defense Research. I was there when John Johnson shot his first match. And,
cool.
There's a lot of cringe and bad information out there, but they helped me get on the right path. I talked to Todd Lewis Green several times before he passed away in 2017. And I was completely blessed because I had really, really good people looking out for me. I didn't have to go up that crazy, sometimes painful slope of having, bad instructors. Instagram wasn't too crazy back then.
Right.
So I know Instagram gunfighting or gimmicks. And the community and the networking is really, really good. And it taught me the importance of professional reputation even before I joined the Navy. Because at the end of the day, your name and breath is all you have. And, it's easy to get an NRA cert, but that's, the bare minimum. Know your craft, vet your instructors, and see what they do besides just teaching carry classes.
Yeah.
I mean, you and your other instructors at Fire Ridge, you shoot matches.
Right.
You do different things. You do drills. You actually go out there and shoot. Some people think, I got this piece of paper. Time to make money, live like a rock star, diploma mill, and it's not like that.
I see people all the time, or I talk to people, and we do like public events, and we ask them about training, and they say, I have my concealed carry, and they walk away like, they're arming themselves with the fact they took a concealed carry class. But what I think is interesting, and I don't know if you've ever thought about it before, is you went from not being exposed to guns, really, and I don't know, is the culture like that where you're deprived of, like in Guam, for example, you're deprived of owning a gun, or you're just like, well, it's better that we don't have them because we don't want people to get hurt? Like when you're growing up, where you're like, I want to shoot a gun, or was it like, well, this is for my safety kind of thing? Like, what is the mindset with
that?
The
mindset there, it goes back to what I said, where if you deprive that right, because it's America, to people, it creates ignorance. So a lot of people, they're irrationally, scared of guns, hesitant. They only associate it with violence. And when it comes to shooting and training, there are dire consequences if you become lackadaisical. And then it makes it even worse because you got a lot of people who don't know what they're doing, or they just don't know what they don't know.
Right.
Becoming the subject matter experts. Sea Story Time, I taught a class on Guam several years ago before joining the Navy, and I did it for free because it was hard for them to get that course.
Yeah.
And there was about 7 students, and 2 of them were, subject matter experts, or so they thought, until I busted out the shot timer and the V8 target. And my basic thing was like, hey, get into that 8-inch circle at 7 yards. But they got so into their heads that, I got to do this, I got to do that. They were actually hard to train. The best student I had in that class was a spouse of one of the students. She was hesitant, but she had no bad habits. She left her ego at the door.
Right.
And she said she did very, very well. And she was shooting a Beretta 92, Beretta gang. And
gang.
She, after that class, she said, thank you for teaching me. I'm happy that, I was able to sort it out. And, she asked for help. Some of the so-called SMEs, they were just like, oh, I know this, I know that. They weren't taking it seriously. And then when push comes to shove and it really forced down, they turned over a new leaf because it's like, this is just a basic class. That threat is not shooting back at you.
Right.
It's a sterile environment.
Mm-hmm.
And the artificial stress is just brought on by a shot timer.
Right.
And they were losing like that. And I'm very, very adamant that people do competitive shooting because it adds that artificial stress.
Yeah.
And also too, there are even more classes like ECQC or even stuff that doesn't involve a handgun, just mental training. And also, people don't know what they don't know. For example, one of my best sponsors, Dark Star Gear, they make holsters. Tom's been busy lately, but when people see appendix carry and they don't know what they don't know, they start freaking out.
You're gonna shoot your junk off, boy.
Yeah. Or on the other side of it, it's like, oh, I'm just gonna appendix carry. They have like some floppy nylon thing, and
right.
they got hurt. So it's just about knowing how to do it properly and using the right tool for the job. I mean, anything is a hammer if you're brave enough, but
everything.
I think it's better to actually use a hammer versus a socket wrench or
right.
A pair of pliers to try and force it.
And the point I was kind of getting at earlier is I wish more people could see that perspective where you weren't really exposed to it and then you just started to seek higher learning and then continue to actually, like, you're still taking classes, you're still learning, you're still a student, but people will just throw down the card. Well, I've been around guns my whole life, and they think they've earned some sort of badge to where, they're done learning because,
and yes, yes, and it's like that in Guam a little bit, but it's also like that here in the States where somebody shoots a US PSA match, they buy a $3,000 limited or open gun, they're invested. I mean, it's like that with any hobby, and they
right.
feel that they have that sense of entitlement. I mean, it's not just in the shooting world. I mean, cyclists are like this. People that work on Jeeps. Are there any niche hobby out there? You're going to run into somebody that puts in a lot of time and effort. It's not always good quality time, effort, and resources.
Right.
But they have that sense of entitlement, and the ego check is one of the big ones. And also too with the Navy, yeah, I'm a cake eater. I went officer route, but my commissioning source was Officer Candidate School in Newport, Rhode Island. And the saying there is Navy owned, Marine Corps trained, because we had Marine Corps drill instructors there. And the big thing about OCS, it's not really teaching you so much about being a leader, not trying to get you to be the next, naval historian expert, but you are put in a lot of situations that are stressful and they set you up for failure. Because as you know, in the Army, you're an officer, you're probably going to get set up for failure. So they just want to see how you can handle getting punched in the face.
Yeah, that checks out.
Also, the ego thing, it's just holding it back, and also putting in your time and effort in worthwhile ventures.
Yeah. Makes sense. All right, buddy. Well, I do want to ask my question. What advice you'd give yourself at 18 years old?
Ooh, advice I would give myself at 18 would be...
Could be anything.
It would be whatever you choose to pursue. Be aggressive about it. Stay classy, and don't let what other people think about you or family expectations hold you back. Because at the end of the day, you're the one holding the bag. Yeah. And you only got one life. Don't waste it. Yeah. I was pretty cringe at 18. That's kind of.
Yeah. So, I got you thinking about being 18. I'm just curious. I'm always, like I said earlier, I'm curious about kind of what's going through people's head. When I was getting ready to go to the Army, believe it or not, there was a certain point in my life where I thought it was a good idea to be in the ATF. Talk about cringe. We had to do a career thing for school. Like, we were in some sort of financial literacy class. Believe it or not, it actually happens. and we had to write up what we wanted our career to be and where we wanted to live. And I wanted to be an ATF agent and live in Massachusetts. That's like the worst thing that you could, like, now I can't even think about it, but it's just I don't think a lot of people think about where their headspace was back then. Like, you grew up in Guam. What's the other alternative for most people, like your peers, that didn't go in the?
So most people on Guam, you could work in the tourist industry. I was lucky enough. I went to school, and going back to the ego thing, and really the advice I'd give myself as 18, like every good young American growing up in the 90s and early 2000s, I watched Top Gun, and for the longest time, I wanted to be a fighter pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also my way of striking away. I was supposed to be a fourth generation pharmacist or third generation doctor.
Mm.
And, I just drank the Kool-Aid so hard on it, and I was chasing it. And I even have a pilot's license. It's not current. Instrument rating, high performance, and all of that.
You have a pilot's license?
Yeah, I do. I actually dug it out when I was PCSing. But going back to the advice I'd give myself, it's that I was doing it for other people to prove them wrong. I wasn't really doing it for me.
Yeah.
So when I went into the Navy, I was actually applying for Supply Corps. That's what I wanted. But they said it's kind of closed off. I was like, well, I want to be an officer. And my recruiter said, well, you have these certifications. Your major's in airfield operations and management, business major with airport stuff thrown in.
Okay.
And you have a license. So you're shooting for aviation. So my contract originally was to be a student naval aviator, and I was one. But then when I was in flight school in Pensacola, newly married, I was like, haha, I'm going to make it. I broke away, married to a hot Latina lady, and it's going good, living my best butterbar life.
Could you just hear Kenny Loggins in your head all day?
Not Kenny Loggins, actually Mighty Wings by Cheap Trick.
Oh, yeah.
Best song. And, as I got older and, got more exposed to the aviation realm, before joining, I actually shifted. When you're a little kid, everybody wants to be an F-18 pilot.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, it's like, I think it'd be cool to fly C-2s, or cargo planes, Ospreys, because it's nice. You're taking care of people. It's, a tangible thing.
Yeah.
Or even helicopters, which I still think are death traps. Pour one out to the boys and girls that fly those.
What did you? So what are you What did you qualify to fly on? What did you take your test in and everything?
So I got my pilot's license through the FAA. I mean, you can get them pretty early, but I went to a Part 141 school, meaning that it's kind of mixed in with your college. So
yeah,
I have my high performance rating. I was instrument rated. Of course, it's not current. And complex aircraft, geared with stuff with retractable gear.
Yeah.
And I was mulling on working on my commercial, but at the time, so before you could get your pilot's license up to your commercial and you could apply to the airlines and they would take you and you're good to go. But when I was going through the pipeline in college, they created a new wicket for the FAA where you have to have 1,500 hours
Ooh.
And a restricted ATP. And to
What's
get
ATP?
to those airline transportation pilot,
okay.
It's another test you got to do. And what's scary is that to get to those 1,500 hours, you're a flight instructor, you're doing odd jobs, and they don't pay well. You're lucky if you're making $30K before taxes doing that. So a lot of the instructors I met with had that. And, the military is like, pays much more better.
Yeah.
And then also too, with aviation, if you cough the wrong way, you get sick and not physically qualified. That's your bread and butter. The average aviation student is sometimes 6 figures into debt and digging yourself out. I relied on scholarships. My grandpa, God bless him, and may rest in peace, he supported me in the major that I wanted, even though it was breaking away, because he believed that, hey, you got to carve your own path.
Yeah.
So
it's still a pretty legit thing to get into. It's not like, hey, I support you, washing cars the rest of your life. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And it was a very scary moment. I was like, well, I could get those hours in the military. and do all of that. But then when I was in flight school, I'm gonna pick on the Coast Guard. A Coast Guard sailor blew a stop sign and totaled my car, and I got hurt. So
Oh.
I had to, and I eventually redesignated into the supply corps, which is what I wanted from the get go.
Well, that
so
worked out.
happy accidents. Big reason I wanted supply corps is that you can go to any community in the Navy. I can go on a ship.
Yeah.
I could go on a submarine, go run around and LARP with SEALs.
You could go to Ohio.
Go to Ohio. Yeah. I miss Ohio. That was a fun tour.
Yeah.
But then, I'm grateful for, my aviation experience and stuff. I have an appreciation for what they do. Also made me better at operational risk management.
Yeah.
Also taking care of myself. And, it's just a privilege. And yeah, it's funny that, Navy sends people to Ohio, but it's a good billet. I mean, it's a great billet. But no, and I realized, and the thing with me is when I joined the Navy, I wanted to be a sailor and officer first.
Yeah.
A pilot, flying, job was secondary. And supply corps, you have a tangible impact to the warfighter.
Okay.
I mean, you're the one that's getting them what they need, where they need to go. Because without that, everything falls apart. Unfortunately, the military supply system is not quite Amazon Prime, but it also lets you find creative solutions to take care of the warfighters. And what's cool about the Navy Supply Corps is that out of all the staff corps support job communities, we can elect to go to combat if we want. We can elect to carry a weapon. I've stood armed watches, run around with my M9 because I'm a dirty sir, so I don't run around with a rifle. I have a couple of times. Yeah. I just don't shoot rifles as good as pistols. But it was a nice segue where most, staff corps jobs where, if you're a doctor or healthcare provider, you can only arm up and throw down in defense of your patients.
Right.
So that's another thing people don't realize. And, there's a lot of supply officers that go downrange and do some good works, and they're there, they're in it. So
that was
it's a good fit for me.
Yeah, that was our the best advice I ever got in basic training was befriend all the supply people and befriend the medics. And that advice worked out great because those are the two people that'll take care of you. Well, not people, but entities.
Yeah, that's good advice. But the flip side of that coin is what I don't like is where supply support people, they turn into like basically Jabba the Hutt, or they have like their own little fiefdom. Because at the end of the day, it's customer service, and I don't like that mentality where you have to kiss the ring, you have to have a hook.
Yeah, they're those are out there.
This isn't.
They have
the
bullets
prison.
Don't fly without supply tattoos and won't give you the ammo you need, but
yeah, and that's like
they're out there.
It's like come on, man, this isn't prison, all right? You're not giving me a pack of smokes.
Right. Yeah. Well, sometimes.
But... And I'm really, really big on customer service because I take a personal interest in helping out, my sailors, and in this current duty station, my EOD techs. I joke around. I'm trying to turn this customer service from a Popeyes to a Chick-fil-A. That's like my mission, because even though you can't get people what they want and your hands are tied, as long as they know that you made every good effort to try and take care of them, and you have that, hey, I actually care factor, that goes a long way. That's the big difference between somebody re-enlisting or not, big difference on somebody willing to, work harder, fight harder. And that's something that people should remember, even outside of the military. Just have that genuine care, have that customer service. And I'm kind of like that Michael Jordan meme where I get burned because, everybody's your brother and sister until rents due. And it's like, hey, man, the deadline was this. And then they make excuses or they make you look bad, set up for failure. And I'm like Michael Jordan, and I took that personally.
Yeah, you're like Chick-fil-A. You're the best you can be for 6 days a week, but don't come knocking on Sundays.
Yeah, I was joking around with one of my buddies. It's like I'm gonna be like what's his name's character in Tropic Thunder? Remember remember the manager? I think he was a manager in the TiVo.
Oh yeah, you want TiVo? You're gonna get TiVo. It's Matthew McConaughey Yeah.
Yeah, Matthew McConaughey, and he was yelling at Tom Cruise. You're telling me my star is out there without a TiVo? That's me.
Yeah.
I mean, when I found out my ship didn't have PMags and the aluminum ones were at the end of their life cycle, I was like, gotta get the PMags. So we got the PMags. And
does that come
yeah.
from a shooter background side? Because I doubt, other people in your job are like, I don't care if they have PMags as long as they have mags.
So it goes back to professional reputation.
Yeah.
I was in good with the operations officer who's in charge of the weapons division, and one of my buddies, Nick Walker, he became the chief on my ship, and I found out we've shot together and talked. So we were excited, and I also I had earned a good professional rapport relationship with our commanding officer. And if you're good, and it's ironic because most people think I'm gung ho, hard charger. My friends joke around, you're going to be an admiral. That's a scary thought, but if you do good work and you put out, for me, it's a cloaking device. I do not like being micromanaged. I do not like micromanaging.
Yeah.
And that was really the big segue for it. And, we were able to take care of them. So on their last deployment, they had PMags. They had the CAC-4 grips, and, they basically had something from straight Navy SEAL 2007. I mean, it's better than what they got. We got rid of all the M16A1s and got M4s because...
So something the Marines still don't have, is what you're saying.
Now they got the 416 and suppressors. They got to stop complaining.
Yeah, some of them do.
Some of them do, and I appreciate the Marine Corps because they do not have a lot of budget,
right?
And they make do with what they got.
Yeah.
I still have my blueberry camouflage, and as soon as the Marine Corps got their MARP hat, they're still using the same
mint
MARP hat
chocolate.
designs.
Their mint chocolate chip. Is that what you're talking about?
No, they're MARP hat. They're Digi Camo. I remember when they first got it, but they actually put a lot of effort into it. And the other branches were like, we want that too. So you got, your favorite, the ACU, and I got the dang blueberries. And the Air Force found a way to mess up Tiger Stripe. I didn't think that was possible. But
yeah, everybody was stoked that Tiger Stripe was coming, and then it came out, and people weren't so stoked about it. I think the Air Force got the better end of that deal, personally, but.
They get Danner boots as uniform items.
Oh,
I'm a little jealous of that. Oh, yeah. It's
like, is this even a question? Danners, exactly. My airmen will have Danners, and you will be happy about
Danners. Yeah, and it's like that with shooting. It's like buy once, cry once. Don't buy some obscure, weird gun. Yeah, this one platform you like might cost more, but there's a reason. It's quality.
Right.
So it's that buy once, cry once mentality. But I'm just happy that shooting and all of that, it's built in a big part of my life and helped mold me as a person. I mean, I was talking to some other JOs, and when I was interviewing for my current billet, they were asking me about command mentality. And as a lowly 03, you're not really thinking about that way too much, but I put together my command acronym, and it's shooting related. The acronym is I-AIM, and the I stands for integrity. It's your gold standard.
Yeah.
A is accuracy. You want to try and measure twice and cut once. The other I is initiative. You just do something. You don't want to wait till the last minute. And M, it goes back to ego, modesty. You have to have that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's been a wild ride, but I'm enjoying every moment of it. So
you got a deployment coming up, but
yeah, quote unquote deployment, because it's not on a ship. So yeah, ship deployment versus going overseas, it's completely different.
Right.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be an ad? Okay, let me ask this question. What do most officers get? What's the rank most officers retire from?
So in the Navy, in my community, you can retire as an 04, as a lieutenant commander.
Okay.
For me, people ask me this question: are you a career guy, or are you going to get out soon? Because there's plenty of lucrative opportunities for supply corps officers. And my answer is always the same. I'm taking it tour by tour until they stop promoting me, and it's not fun being full work anymore.
Yeah.
So That's the best way to look at it, and that's how I look at
Do you have any like private sector admirations that you would do tomorrow if
it. If they called up,
I say
no,
private
so
sector like you're gonna go work for Enron, but you know what I mean.
no, my wife is happy I'm doing this because she said that if I use this kind of energy for evil, it'd be like Wolf of Wall Street, and I'm not
Yeah.
about that. Yeah, that'd be pretty bad.
I think she's kind of spot on that. I can see that too, honestly.
be a high rolling finance bro.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually rewatching American Psycho yesterday. And I'm just
Kind of get you in the mood.
yeah, and it's really funny that thing in itself and the hierarchy and the
Yeah.
stuff that they do. I mean, people complain that a lot of CEOs and stuff are overpaid, but you have to remember that they're turning the stockholders $1 into $1,000.
Right.
So you're basically Merlin and the freaking Philosopher's Stone turning stuff into gold,
Right.
and that takes a toll, and they do some crazy banana stuff. But hey, free market.
Yeah. Well,
That's capitalism.
I guess I should cross out the question if you're going to be a lifer or not. I'll cross that out. Yep. But yeah, I know a lot of people. I know a lot of people that started off like I'm a lifer, and then they got, as we call it, the big green weenie, and they're like, maybe not.
Yeah, Supply Corps, we call it the big green paycheck. Because
Yeah, I bet.
they're like, you mean I could do this job and I don't have to be ripped away from my family
Yeah.
every couple months and move every year?
How many years do you have in?
7.
7.
I just hit 7 last September.
Yeah.
And I'll be up for 04 soon, which is a little bit of a scary but humbling thought. I like being in 03 because it's like being in E5.
Yeah.
Where they don't know how long you've been there, and you're not quite an adult yet, but it's just humbling knowing that I'm being considered for 04. I never would have thought of that. I was like, dang, it came up fast too. The 7 years. It feels like it was only yesterday I was a little unqualified ensign running around.
Right. Right on, man.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you. I know you'll get there, but I hope you're not too, freaked out about it. I'm sure you'll be fine.
Yeah, well, we'll see. But I just want to do good by my sailors and my people and have a good professional rep, because officer side, you can, and also put this in the podcast, whatever I say is not an official endorsement or statement by the U.S. Navy or Department of the Navy.
I'll put it in the show notes for you.
I'll put it in the show notes, yeah. But, it's all about just, taking care of your people, apes trying together. Nobody gets to the top alone.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. I was actually having lunch with a buddy that wrapped up his department head right, and I actually ran into the first chief I met in the Navy. And the last time we saw each other was 7 years ago when I was like a little baby ensign. And
Yeah.
He's just like, look at you, a fully grown, quote unquote, lieutenant. You're never grown, fully grown. You always have to grow.
Right.
You can't sit on the laurels. And if I get ahead, I hope it's by professional reputation and not politics, because everywhere you go, you can get ahead those two ways. But
you're not a Mason, are you?
No.
Okay.
There's a lot of Masons in the Navy.
Yeah, there's
I see them.
Yeah, I noticed that not the Navy, but I heard some people talking like he only got promoted because he's a Mason, and I'm like 20 years old. Like, what are you talking about? Like, the people Nicolas Cage doesn't like? Is that who you're talking? Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. And I appreciate the Masons because they have that sense of camaraderie, brother looking out for brother. There's a joke in the Navy, the Filipino mafia, but we have a term where we build up together, and that's how it is.
Yeah.
So, and they understand that more, but haters are always going to be haters.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. And also to getting all philosophical. I think it was Marcus Aurelius that said any station or award created by man is susceptible to their shortcomings. So you're gonna have a lot of rock stars and rock lobsters go to the top.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Just try your best to be a rock star and not a rock lobster. So, yeah.
I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, we got that from a Marine gunnery, now Master Sergeant, from my ship. He was telling me that when I was seeking some guidance. But no, I miss Ohio. It's a good thing you got going on. Fire Ridge takes care of people. The shooting community is so great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have any experience anywhere else, but I'm pretty happy with what's going on around here. And we bring in people to the middle of Mount Gilead, Ohio, that would normally not be there. I have a coworker, and he took the last Scott Jedlinski class, and I said, I'm like, that doesn't seem like something you would take. And he said, it's not, but it's 10 minutes away from my house. Who else is going to do that? I'm like, okay.
Exactly. You got a strong lineup of instructors. You got Scott, you got Greg, Citizens Defense Research. You've got some quality stuff there. It's not your mall cop special. It's not Rex Kwon Do from Napoleon Dynamite.
Right.
And, they're about that life. And the other thing, too, I think the undertone of this episode will just be modesty. I see a lot of Instagram gunfighters thinking that they're going to live like rock stars, but one of my friends, Steve Fisher, I don't know if you've trained with him, Sentinel Concepts.
Nope. I know who he is. I've been lucky enough to train with him.
Good dude. Don't try and outdrink him. How I learned that is not important. But, he's very matter of fact. He's very like, hey, this is how it is. This is, and being a full-time instructor, I mean, Scott is gone away from home for long times. They're putting in hours. They're putting in this, and it's really a labor of love.
Yeah.
Because the people that are taking that classes, they're taking it because they want to better themselves. And it's nice because it's not your average Joe or Jane that's going to take that class. It's somebody that's done the research and they want to get better. And, they're not dragged into the class. They're paying money out of it. And I respect the private citizen for doing that.
Yeah.
Because, you don't have to be in the military or in law enforcement to be a proficient shooter or competent and also really good and proficient in self-defense. It's you. I mean, your station, your job title, it doesn't bestow proficiency. So kudos out to the working American for putting time out to get better.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope more people get that message. It's like we talked about earlier with the gatekeep. I think people, there's half the people that think they know everything, and the other half are just kind of intimidated. And that's been kind of my drive is I don't want to be the person teaching super advanced class. I want to get you to Steve Fisher's class. You know what I mean? I want you to be able to get there and not shoot yourself or anybody else. You know what I mean? So there's that gap where people see this stuff online or on Instagram. They're like, that's pretty cool. I'm not going to ever do that. But you can,
You can, and it also doesn't help with the speed of information, social media,
and
all of that stuff. I'm actually very proud of myself because there was a time in my life where, before the Navy, where I would just, be the, well, actually, or, chime in. But then,
well, actually.
Yeah, half the time people putting stuff up on the internet, they just want to hear the sounds of their own voice, and they're seeking confirmation bias. They're not looking for critical thinking. And there's also people that don't know when to stay in their lane. You see that with competition shooters a lot too. Somebody will post up a U.S. PSA stage, and weaponized Paul Blart with the internet will chime in, or Gecko 45. I don't know if you get that reference, but
like Gordon Gecko.
It was on a forum, and he was like talking about gunfighting in a food court, basically peak cringe tactical fantasy scenarios, and it was just I'm pretty sure it was satire, but
you never know these days, or even back then.
Yeah, exactly. So just having that humility to kind of stay in your lane, open out. Some of the best, defensive shooters I know are competition shooters, and some of the best competition shooters know when to shift gears. It's like in the intro class I taught. It's like, hey, this isn't gonna get you out of, a critical dynamic incident, but
Right.
it's a game in recalibrating and managing expectations. If you're going to join a US PSA match, but you're going to use your duty rig, don't expect that somebody that's full on, Ricky Bobby race car mode with an open gun, don't expect that you're going to beat him if they put in the work.
Right.
Even when I go to matches, I'll kind of look at people's equipment, and you can kind of tell if they put in the work or not.
Right.
The big thing is the magazine well. Like magazine wells are going to be like wearing scars. They're all like messed up.
Right.
Everything, and I'm like, okay, this guy is either really really bad at reloads, or
he's really really good.
He's really really good.
Yeah.
I use the double alpha dry fire mags so they don't scratch up my mag wells. People think I'm lazy, and my marriage and my work come first and taking care of me before shooting. And I do get worried that there are some people that go full on, but it's like that with any hobby, and they kind of neglect what's important.
Right.
So having that balance is pretty key too.
Are you obligated? I'm sure you're not obligated, but if you wanted to step away for 6 months, would you have, besides deployment, could you come back to the shooting team, or is there an attendance thing, or how does that work?
I'm on the team as per the message, and they understand that not all of us are on shore billets, or we have operational needs, like our OIC, Lieutenant Commander Leitner. I'm just calling him that because he's not a JO anymore, junior officer. But Jeremy, I mean, he's been deployed. He's just getting back, but he still is planning on shooting and doing well. And he's not a shirt collector. I mean, they're like, oh, how come this guy's not posting up content or not shooting in the Navy? It's like, well, he's deployed, man. He or she is deployed. They can't fill that operational commitment.
Right.
And, they understand that, which is nice because it's not my primary job. It's something I enjoy doing. And the team's already tracking that I'm going to be gone for a minute. They're like, okay, cool. But, until then, just be a good representative and practice patience. Also, the Navy jersey, it's a nice reminder at matches to keep it classy, because
right.
Some people are not classy, and it is what it is. But no, it's a great opportunity. It's probably one of the favorite things I do in the Navy, and just happy to be a part of it. And I'm even more happy that they understand the operational needs of the Navy come first. Like if World War III popped off tomorrow, nobody's going to be breathing down my neck. We looked at your post. You're not putting stuff up. I mean, hey, man,
I'm assuming,
yeah.
Since you brought that up, that's something they kind of nudge you to do, is post content.
So it goes back to what I said about shirt collectors or collateral queens and kings. I mean, you have it, you might as well do it, because the wickets are pretty hard, and also the Navy shooting team gets put on your fit rep or eval, and you're gonna look like a jerk if you have that on your eval when you haven't, or fit rep, and you haven't shot a match.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and our wickets are pretty hard to meet because there's a lot of interest on joining the team, representing the Navy.
Yeah.
But we want good people to do that. I mean,
right.
We don't want a sailor that has a slew of legal problems and craziness or bad reputation. We also don't want a sailor to try and walk on the team, and then when they go to their match, they just put us in a bad light. And,
right.
Have a desk pop and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So
if people want to see you shoot, where do they find you on the interwebs?
So I'm on my Instagram. It's at MarkShotFirst, MarkShotFirst. Also, disclaimer, it's not because I always place first, but I like Star Wars, and Han Solo shot first. I don't care what people say. And that's why I picked that name. Plus, it's a short and there's no underscores.
Yeah.
So I'm just putting stuff up there. More than happy to help people out and, have them. And it's nice seeing people that are willing to cooperate, put egos aside, and just become better people and lead the community better than it is.
Yeah.
The caliber of shooters that we have now compared to 20, 30 years ago, it's gone up exponentially.
Really?
I mean, USPSA actually adjusted their classification system a couple years ago. People are getting faster. Steel Challenge records are being broken. It's a good place to be in, and it only gets better. It's like comparing Olympic equipment from the 30s to Olympic equipment we have now. It's pretty wild, and it's good. And I'm happy that there are places like Fire Ridge where people can get good quality training. You rack and stack your instructors, so you're not a victim of Rex Kwon Do. You're also in the Midwest, so yeah. Is there anything else you got for me or whatnot?
No, sir. Well, I really appreciate you coming on and talking to me. It was good catching up with you. I haven't talked to you in a while.
Yeah, it's been a minute. I kind of get sad sometimes. I actually wore my Briar Rabbit jersey from Zanesville a couple weeks ago, and I'm glad to see that the Ohio shooting scene is doing well. USPSA Nationals is actually being held at
Cardinal
Marengo at Cardinal.
Yep.
And I'm sad I'll be deployed for that.
Oh,
I
man.
think it's great. Yeah, but it's a great opportunity, and I'm looking forward to throwing some cold ones back with you and the boys and girls. And Ohio has a special place in my heart. I don't care what the internet says. has some good people.
Well, I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, we will catch up with you later. Like I said, I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm glad that we can work it out.
Yes, sir. All right, buddy.
All right, brother. Take care. Later.